Hello, this is Steve Baker, and this is my Medicare show that I've been doing for quite some time. And this morning we're going to do things a little bit differently. I want to talk with someone who's, in my mind, quite famous because he's an international best-selling author, and we're going to talk about health. Two things happen when we start reaching Medicare age. One is we get a little bit older, and the other thing is that things like start going wrong. My mother used to say years ago, she says, I'm just like a darned old used car. Get one thing fixed and another thing goes wrong. So what we want to talk about is the person's name is Red OLaughlin, and he's done an extensive amount. And first off, what I want to do is Red has published 3 books you can see on your screen. The middle one is his most recent one, and that's the one we're going to focus on today. But he's quite knowledgeable about various things to do with health. And Red, if you would just to talk to us a little bit about your history, who you are, where you came from, your background, and what leads you to be an expert, so to speak, on aging and health.
Thank you very much, Steve. I really am truly honored to be here today. The first thing I think people need to know is I'm the oldest of 9 kids, 6 boys, 3 girls. First to go to college, and I chose the field of chemistry as my primary chemistry major, math and physics minor. Chemistry is my first love before anything else, before I ever met my wife. Just one of those things that just connected with me. And what I do nowadays is a direct result of that. I research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. If you treat a symptom, you'll always treat a symptom. You have to treat the cause of a problem in order to fix it.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to practice anything with my chemistry because I got an invitation to Vietnam. And that kind of disrupted my chemical future. But I did end up getting 31 plus years in the military. I said I do to the Navy on a Sunday afternoon with my best friend, who was supposed to say the same thing and didn't. He was my best man at my wedding the following Wednesday. This coming Friday will be my wife and I's 52nd wedding anniversary. I did not practice anything further in chemistry, but I did get 4 more degrees, all in different subjects. And I have a litany of professional certifications. But about 10 years ago, I got involved in self-improvement motivation, and I wrote a couple books in that area, one of which you have there is the No Matter What You Can Do It. That was my very first book. And then I got involved when my wife came down with breast cancer in the health and wellness end of things. And from that perspective on, my focus was not so much in the self-improvement, self-esteem, those kind of areas of our lives that we really don't focus on very much, but the motivation. I used to speak in front of the room at my mentors' events and then sell my books and my CDs in the back of the room. But since then, I've switched over and I pretty much stayed in the book writing business. I speak quite a bit on these topics, and then I also help people get their books published. So those are the 3 primary things I do right now: is write books, speak, and publish.
Terrific. Well, great. Well, that covers your background, and the one I want to focus on, the Joy of Ageless Health. That's your most recent one, as you indicated, and you've covered quite a few topics in there that for seniors, and I'm talking about seniors either approaching age 65 or above age 65, things start, let me say, going wrong. Or at least we were made, we recognize things that we should pay a lot of attention to. And one of the things, right away, if you write, if you talk about a book, you'll always start by the diet, what we put in our mouth and in our pie hole, as we say. But stuff in your pie hole has a lot to do with your future existence in terms of overall health and things that start going wrong. So let's talk about that just a little bit. The dietary, the diet part of it. Elaborate on what things are different when you turn, let's say, age 58, 59, 60, 65? What starts happening in our body that's different?
Well, most people don't know the primary causes of aging. And there's two, I mean, there's several, a lot of factors, but there's two primary things you need to worry about. One is your human growth hormone. When you're little, that's what takes care of you as you're growing up. You become a teenager, and then all of a sudden it starts fading off a little bit. And then as you get older, by the time you get into your 60s, you probably have about 20% left. By the time you get into your 80s, you have probably less than 10%. But that's the big man on the block. He's the one that's in charge of everything that's going on in your body. And as he gets smaller and smaller and smaller, everybody else kind of goes into chaos. And it's very, very difficult to control things when nobody's in control. So the human growth hormone is one aspect of the aging factor. The other aspect is your telomere length. In your DNA, those things that wrap around the spiral, at the very, very end, there's a thing called a telomere. And if you look at a shoelace, the little plastic caplet at the end would be the same thing as a telomere. And if you were to take a pair of scissors and just snip off little bits of that plastic until you get all the way to no plastic left, that's when the cell dies. But every time the cell replicates, becomes two, you lose a little bit of that telomere. Your lifestyle, what you eat, what you do, determines how much you cut off each time. Now, with regard to the diet, which is probably one of the most, this is probably the biggest thing we can control more so than anything else. But that diet part of it, let me tell you two little interesting stories that will bring this all into focus with regard to how we as the elderly, as they start talking about us, what we can do. The first one is about a woman named Dr. Terry Walls. She's an internist. She came down with MS, multiple sclerosis, late in life. No matter what the doctors did, it didn't work. She kept getting worse and worse and worse. Finally ended up in a wheelchair. She started studying autoimmune disease, of which MS is one of over 100. And within her study, she published a book called The Walls Protocol. It has four primary parts to it. One is toxins, one is stress relief, one is exercise, and one is diet. And we're going to look at the diet part because that's the part that brought me into this entire thing. The diet part of it, she put herself on all four parts of her protocol, and within 3 months of her starting, she was off all her meds, and she was able to walk using a walker, even though she had been in a wheelchair for 4 years. A month later, she was able to walk using a cane, and within a year, she's bicycling 18 miles. My wife was finishing up her chemotherapy, and we took a little bit extra time off to start radiation. Well, we went and talked to the radiologist, and he said, the only thing I really can't address well is her fatigue. No matter what happens, she's taking 1 or 2 2-hour naps a day, just really out of it. And he said, well, her fatigue will probably get worse with the radiation therapy. I said, okay. So I said, on day 1, Marilyn, my wife, we're going to start the Walls Protocol, but we're not going to do all those other parts. We were already doing the toxin part pretty well, but the other 2 parts, exercise and stress relief, just couldn't get into her at all. That's just not going to happen. So we started with the diet, and within 48 hours, her fatigue was totally gone, absolutely gone. From that on, she had, for the rest of her weeks of radiation therapy, she had no more naps. Within 1 week of that first day, she was back volunteering herself at the church where she was at. The very last day of chemo radiation, we left Houston around noontime and drove to Jacksonville, Florida. It was about 1,000 miles. My wife, my mom's estate stuff was there. I rented a U-Haul and brought it all back. She followed me literally 48 hours after her last radiation therapy in a car, 500 miles the first day, 500 miles the second day by herself.
Wow.
We're having months of chemotherapy, weeks of radiation, and a simple thing like diet changed. It just wiped out all of that chemo fog, got rid of fatigue, got rid of a lot of things. And so you might be asking, well, what is so special about this diet? Part of the diet is the fact that most of us don't know what to eat because we've never been told. We don't know why we eat what we're eating. But on the Walls Protocol, it's set up that there's roughly about 30, 31, 32 nutrients the body needs on a daily basis. And if you're not getting every single one of those on a daily basis, at least the absolute minimum for daily minimum requirements, something's going wrong. you're not getting this thing to work right. You're not getting that thing anyway, those are the things you need really and truly to concentrate on. So if you know exactly what the body needs and you're giving the body what it needs, then the body can do what it needs to do. Otherwise, you start having the fatigue, you have, oh, this hurts. Where did I leave those keys? All those kind of things that we have a tendency to do as we get older. Now, I'm not saying just changing your diet, you're going to remember where your keys are at more often. There are some things that as we advance, the beta amyloid protein in the brain actually will start grabbing a hold. But if we have time, we can talk a little bit about that brain health too. But the issue with the nutrients is that you need every single one of them on a daily basis. Now, there are 4 parts to her dietary deal. One is leafy green vegetables. She says 1 cup of leafy green vegetables per meal, 3 meals a day. Well, we started out that way, and we found out that we couldn't handle 3 meals a day. There's parts of it more. And so we basically settled on about 1.5 meals a day. The second part is what they call colored fruits and vegetables, but the color has to go all the way through the vegetable. Eggplant, no, but a blueberry, yes. So the color, whatever you're looking at, a carrot, a cherry, whatever it is, has to go all the way through the fruit or the vegetable. You can't have some other color in the middle. Then the sulfur-laden vegetables, your cruciferous vegetables, your cauliflower, asparagus, all that kind of stuff, onions, garlic, mushrooms, those things you need the sulfur. I have a tendency, okay, with the colored fruits and vegetables, you also need 1 cup. With the sulfur-laden vegetables, you need 1 cup. I saute them, and when I saute them, I only need 1/2 cup. So if you saute anything at all, you only need 1/2 cup. And then 3 to 4 ounces of what we call high-quality protein. Now, the one thing that I have changed in the Wahls protocol is I do not have the same protein 2 days in a row. So if I'm having beef and chicken today, I will make sure that I have salmon and some other protein tomorrow, egg, for instance. Mm-hmm. If I change out my protein where I don't have the same protein, at least within a 48-hour window. Excuse me. So that combination of foods will give you all of the 30 or 30 plus nutrients the body needs. Now, I don't like organ meat, which is one of the sources of vitamin K2. Now, vitamin K2 is super critical because our bones require it. When you take your calcium in either by a pill, and if you have a pill and it's calcium carbonate, most of it's going to end up in the toilet. So you need to make sure that you're getting most of your calcium from your food. But if you're taking in the calcium, you also need magnesium, something that's involved in about 300 different functions in the body. Now that those two actually help because they get the calcium into an absorbable form before it leaves the stomach. As it's leaving the duodenum in your stomach, if you don't have enough vitamin D3 in your body, it's going to end up in the toilet. So you need to get it into the bloodstream. The vitamin D3 reaches out, grabs that calcium, and pulls it into the bloodstream. Now you have a problem because if you don't have enough vitamin K2 in your body, it's going to end up in your heart valves and arteries, and you don't need that extra calcium or plaque in that part of your body. The K2 actually gets it into the bones and keeps it there. The vitamin K2 will actually also go out into your heart and start grabbing those little pieces of plaque, those calcium deposits, and start pulling them back in. Now, vitamin K2 I take as a pill. So I only have 2 things I take as a pill. One is vitamin K2, and vitamin K2 is a monoquinone. And there's 2 very important ones. One is MK4 and one's MK7. One's automatic. Right now it's being used. The other one maybe last 24 hours. But that MK2, when I look at a bottle, I want to see MK4, MK7 on the bottle. Most of the time they don't tell you that. So you got to look really hard to find it. The other one that I don't do because there's no single food with all 8 components of vitamin E. You got 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. Most of the time they'll sell you one and it's a synthetic and doesn't do you any good at all, and they call it vitamin E, and technically it is, but it's really not worthwhile. So you want to look for what they call mixed tocopherols or mixed tocotrienols. Those are the 8 that you need, and I take that in pill form. Now, if you have literally about that much, I believe it's alpha tocotrienol in your brain, if you end up with a stroke, the chances of you fully recovering without any having side effects is pretty darn good. It's one of those ones that we don't even think about, but the studies that have gone out there shown that people who recover from a stroke really rapidly with no effects happen to have that level, I mean, literally 25 micrograms or something in the brain. So I make sure that I take my vitamin E every day in a pill form. Everything else I take by the food. I get it as natural as I can possibly get it. Literally almost everything I buy is organic. But when we're only having a meal and a half a day, and one of the things I do is instead of having a large plate, I changed over to a small plate. I don't have anything on less than a salad. I mean, larger than a salad plate. So I limit my quantity, and if it fits on there, no seconds. But I'm getting every vitamin, nutrient, mineral that I need on a daily basis. And that is what the body will respond to. So if you're missing, say, vitamin B12, for instance, a cobalamin, most of the time you buy it in a pill form, it's a cyanocobalamin. Cobalamins do not last through the stomach acid. They get destroyed. So what you need to do is put it under your tongue. So if it dissolves under your tongue, you're actually getting into your body. But if you're deficient in it, it mimics Alzheimer's. And that's one of the reasons why doctors will give you a vitamin B12 shot as one of the first things to say, well, are you deficient in B12? But those things are things that we need to look at. Now, obviously, you can't get vitamin D very easily, enough quantity inside the food we do. So outside, if the weather's decent, I'm outside walking for at least an hour a day. But if not, I'm also taking between 15 and 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 a day. Now, one of the tests that I have on my annual physical, I've had annual physicals every year since 1968, 31 flight physicals in the Navy. When I get out, I kept doing the same thing. So I know based on the tests that I order that I know what my vitamin D3 levels are. And one of the things that really is truly is important, I've written about this in one of my blogs, is the vitamin D3 has a tendency to inhibit, block the ACE2, the ACE2 receptor in our bodies. And that ACE2 is where that COVID-19 wants to reach out and grab a hold of and lock onto. So if you can do something to actually break that bond, then you end up with a little bit of we call it immunity to, so to speak, from that COVID-19 thing. But with the vitamin D3, you need at least 50 nanograms per milliliter minimum. And most of the time, most people don't even have 20. I sit there primarily in that region of around 75. My wife is over 80, and we kept her that way because she really needed to be closer to 100 when she was going through chemo and radiation to help the body. So the vitamin D3, vitamin E, vitamin K2, I really take those in pill forms. Everything else is food. Back to you, Steve.
Oh, wow, Red. That's a lot of stuff. You know, as you were speaking there, and it occurred to me, and I do this myself. I go into, let's say, a grocery store. We've got, across the nation, we've got several different grocery stores. They always have a section called vitamins and minerals. And you turn the corner, and my gosh, they're just lined up. I mean, one after another. Explain what we should really look for if we're going into, let's say, well, basically any drugstore or whatever. One of the things that I always look at first is omega-3. Talk a little bit about, we obviously can't go down and just buy one of everything if we don't really know what we're talking about, and we could probably end up as a disaster by doing so. So talk to us a little bit about what we should really look for in the drugstore or the grocery store in terms of vitamins and minerals.
Well, if you're eating properly, you probably don't even need to go to that section of the store. But let's assume, for instance, that you do have something for whatever reason, and you mentioned the omega-3.
Okay.
Most of the vegetable oils that we have nowadays, there's a lot of problems with them. The biggest problem is they're omega-6. You have omega-9, omega-3, omega-6, and we also have omega-7, but I'm not going to worry about that one today. Omega-9 is your, what do you call those, olive oil. And we don't really need it. It's not something the body has to have, but it's not going to hurt by having some of it. But the omega-6s, it's an essential fatty acid. We have to get it from our diet. We don't make it. But we have to make sure we don't get too much of it. So the omega-3 is, again, it's an essential fatty acid. We don't make it. We have to get it from our food. And your fish is probably one of the best sources of omega-3s. So when you get your omega-3s and your omega-6s, you want to make sure they're basically about a 1-to-1 ratio. If you have them anything more than 4-to-1, omega-6 to omega-3, then you start inflaming the body.
Okay.
But disease starts at the cellular level with chronic low-level inflammation. Over time, it builds up and spreads. One of the tests that I asked to have done on me literally for the last 20-some years is the C-reactive protein. The C-reactive protein is a protein that when inflammation starts raising its ugly head throughout the body, it grows. It's a protein that the body creates in response to that. So it's kind of like your gas gauge. Is it full or empty? Well, when it gets close to empty, you want to know so you can do something about it. Well, the C-reactive protein acts the same way. It's going in the opposite direction. So you have too much, you don't want it. You actually want to have literally zero in the body. And so the C-reactive protein won't tell you where you have a problem, but it'll tell you have a problem. So you haven't been to the doctor in 6, 8, 10 years. All of a sudden you go in, you find out you have a cancer the size of a grapefruit. Had you gone in, you would have known that your C-reactive protein is just telling the world, hey, I got a problem, but nothing's happening because nobody knows about it. And that's why that particular test. But on most annual physicals, the doctors don't prescribe that test. I tell them I want a C-reactive protein, I want homocysteine, I want a vitamin D3, I want extra tests. And does Medicare cover it? Ironically, it does in many cases. What's the worst thing that happens? You end up paying for it out of your pocket. But that is really and truly something that's worth knowing. But that C-reactive protein, how do you counter that inflammation in the body? Now you know you have something. Again, you have a free radical in the body. We get that by breathing, by our metabolism, by walking, by running, by whatever we eat, everything we smell, we're getting free radicals. The free radicals goes in there and grabs a hold of an electron, pulls it off, and now you have this thing which was nice and stable. Now all of a sudden looking for something to go over here and grab an electron to be stable. And so you get this weird thing going on. But the vitamins and the minerals that you get on a daily basis, that is what provides the antioxidants that goes in there. And one antioxidant is not good for every single type of free radical damage that we have in the body. So I might need this particular kind of fruit, or maybe that particular kind of leafy green vegetable, or this kind of colored fruit and vegetable. Anyway, each of those provide a different polyphenol or a phytonutrient. Those go into the cellular level of the body and fight that inflammation for you on a regular basis. Now, one of the things that we can do to minimize a lot of that stuff is to fast. And when I look at one of the things that I mentioned earlier, the big guy on the block inside our bodies is a human growth hormone. Fasting is the absolute easiest way in the world to increase the amount of human growth hormone in the body. So you're 65 years of age, you're sitting there around 18, 20% human growth hormone on a daily basis. You fast for 24 hours, you fast even for 18 hours. All of a sudden, your human growth hormone is going up, 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 up. So fasting is a fantastic way of increasing that human growth hormone. Now, all of a sudden, you have somebody, hey, I'm back in charge again. Let's get back over here and get in your chairs and be nice. So the hormones have somebody back in charge. You're not sitting there willy-nilly in chaos. So the human growth hormone is dependent upon not eating. There's other things, a lot of exercise, a lot of intense exercise. They call it high-intensity interval training. But we don't want to go out as a 65-year-old and just start running like crazy in sprints. But we can, in fact, do a fast. I do a 72-hour fast every month. It's just one of those things I've been doing now for the last couple of years. I have nothing but unsweet iced tea and water. That's it. Or maybe occasional mineral water. But that rebuilds my immune system from scratch. I mean, it's just like you turn a light switch off, it gets rid of all the damaged DNA, gets rid of all the non-functioning cells. Your body approaches a level of starvation and says, hey, I can't afford to carry all these extra little things that aren't working well. Let's get rid of them. And so you basically start all over with a brand new immune system in 72 hours. They're doing that nowadays through the University of Southern California and treating chemotherapy with 72-hour fasting. So now you have two things that work almost equally as well in treating cancer. But you wouldn't think using your own immune system to treat cancer would be a thing you can do. But that's what they're doing now. And they find out that either one done separately works, but you put them both together. And it's amazing how well everything works when it's together. It's just like getting all the vegetables and everything we need. When everything's together, things working really well.
So would you recommend a fast once a week, once a month, every 2 months, whatever? I mean,
I do a 72 22-hour fast every month for my immune system. You can do a fast every day. It's called an intermittent fast. Maybe you do 12 hours or 15 hours or 18 hours. You don't eat. You eat within a 6-hour or an 8-hour window. And that gives the body time to digest. If you're constantly putting food in like we do, the liver never, ever has a chance to kind of just, I finally have a chance to catch up. But when you go on a fast, the liver really has a chance to just to be normal again. I mean, it functions normally, but it's on that overload mode. You're constantly taking toxins and you're doing this, you're making that. But when you're in a fasting mode, you're switching over from insulin and glucose being in control of your energy system into burning fat, which a lot of us want to do if we're not as skinny as we want to be. So we switch over from a glucose energy system into a fat burning energy system. Now it takes about 24 hours of not eating to basically get your liver to get rid of all of the glycogen. Once it's no more glycogen in the liver, we also have some of the muscles, but when it's no more in the liver, then it says, okay, next, and it goes over and switches just like a light switch, and it turns on, I'm now going to get my energy from fat. And so you start now metabolizing or burning that fat for the energy the body needs. Now you have glycogen in your muscles, but they're not the people who make the decision on who does what. It's the liver that makes the decision on whether you're burning fat or not. So you need that fast to get into a fat burning mode. You can also get into it by just not eating as much. You know, if you need literally 1,000 calories a day, if you're eating maybe 600 or 500, that will do the same thing, just not as fast. But if you want to do it in 24 hours, a 24-hour fast is a nice thing to do. Now,
okay, Red, you're like the ever-ready battery here.
Okay.
So you just keep going.
Be careful what you ask.
Yeah, we're running short of time here.
Okay.
Real quickly, mention briefly, one of the areas in your book is toxins.
Okay.
Let's talk about toxins just a minute or two. That's about all we have. Okay.
Okay. Toxins abound everywhere. Probably the worst two places you can get at your food. It's all those artificial colors and preservatives and hormones that are in just about everything. Or it is in the skincare products, your underarm deodorant. Everything you put on your body probably has toxins. I use coconut oil for almost everything. I use underarm deodorant. I eat, drink. I mean, I cook with it, but coconut oil is probably one of the best things you can have. But I buy it as unrefined as I can possibly, at least amount of human touch. But literally everything we touch on our body, put through our mouth, on our skin, has toxins in it. It ends up in the liver. It ends up being stored in the fat. And those are the things that we need to look at. When you look at a label, you want to make sure it's as pure as you can possibly get it. Those are the things that when you go into a store to buy something, I mean, I picked up a bottle of vitamin D3 not long ago, and it had some red and yellow dye in it. Why would you put dye in a vitamin D? I mean, I don't understand. But even the pills we buy.
Yeah. Well, real quickly, two things I want to say is one is pick up your book, the Joy of Ageless Health. You could get it on basically in any bookstore.
It's Amazon only. I don't have it at the bookstore.
Amazon only? Okay, great. All right. You go to Amazon, and you can also get it on online. There's a popular one. What's that called? The one where you get books on a regular basis. Anyway, you can do that. So anyway, we want to have you back, Red, and we want to talk to you about a lot of this in detail. The toxins intrigue me. So anyway, we thank you so much. We appreciate you being with us, and we're going to say that we're going to sign off now and say, Baker Seniors, thank you so much, Red OLaughlin, and look for future visits by Red. Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much, Steve. I'm honored to be with you today.
Okay.